Hey, welcome to the conversation that's as diverse as the dogs that we adore. This is Gun Dogs and Guard Dogs, ultimate podcast dedicated to talking sense about dogs with Les Graham and Ross McCarthy. They work with all breeds of dog, but one specialises in gun dogs and the other prefers guard dogs. No flashy trends or social media hype here, just tried and true knowledge that stands the test of time. They bring you valuable insights and honest conversations about the social predator you share your home with. So here we go. About 45 minutes of gun dogs, guard dogs, good dogs, some maybe not so good dogs, and a dash of gossip.
And here we find ourselves again.
I thought I'd let you start again. I'm busy getting my laptop organised. Oops.
Oh, are you?
I am.
What are you organising that for then?
Because there's a report come out from the Scottish Animal Welfare Council. And actually, hello, Mr. McCarthy, how are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you very much. How are you and your report doing?
I'm really good. I'm very hot. Because it's really hot in Scotland today, and I've done a couple of dog walks. And
That is incredibly unusual because normally you're too cold to even leave the house.
I know. Whereas today, I'm in a t-shirt. I've had to take my socks and shoes off because it's so hot.
I doubt it'll last, so you'll probably be all
I
right.
doubt it'll last. It'll be funny. I know Kenny, when he gets home, I'll be in the kitchen and go, oh, barefoot in the kitchen, huh? Little jokes make me laugh because I look shattered. I look really tired. You look tired as well.
Well, thanks very much.
I would say that. You don't look as black under the eyes as me.
No.
Need some concealer. Shall I put a light on? That'll make me look better. There you go. How's that? Look, no black under the eyes.
No, clever. Well, bit. Look like you've been punched.
I do now, yeah.
What's this report about then that you're excited about?
Well, it's been ongoing since I moved to Scotland, actually. So when I moved to Scotland in 2016.
Blimey.
I know, it's a bit scary, isn't it?
Yes, what's that, 9 years?
9 year gone January, yeah.
Blimey, God.
9 year. I moved up and saw that they were proposing this was before SOLC, before the Scottish Animal Welfare Council commission was set up. I noticed that they were looking to ban the ecollar. Even though I don't use one, I thought it was a bad idea. So I went through and saw the government, got really friendly with a couple of the vets who advised the government, yeah. So we had a couple of conversations, and then SOLC was set up, the Scottish Animal Welfare. I can't remember if it's commission or council, but it's the same as what Cork was in England. Do you know what we did for years? We went to, and there was a meeting in COVID. It goes right the way back to COVID. There was a meeting in COVID about the ecollar and all that lot, and I attended that. And people like the RSPCA, the SPCA was there, the RSPCA there was there, Ordo was there. I was the only person in the room who didn't use an ecollar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and everybody, everyone else was like anti-ecollar. So then it kind of bounced back and forwards, and eventually they said, well, we're going to extend it. So instead of focusing just on the ecollar, we're going to extend it and look at aversives and training.
Right.
Okay. So that's what they did. They put out a questionnaire last year. Right. What it says was a review of the 2018 Scottish Government guidance published in 2021 reported there have been a few welfare complaints involving aversive training in Scotland. It doesn't actually say what they are. 3 of the 9 enforcement agencies who responded to the Scottish Government survey reported complaints involving dog training aids, 80 complaints over 4 years. Although on investigation, unwarranted, written warning or prosecution. Well, that's not a complaint. That is somebody having a beef with somebody else. If you're going to make a complaint, you do a complaint in writing. You do a proper. So anyway, there was 80 complaints over 4 years. I don't know anything about this. Finally, dog trainers and behaviour is not regulated, and the Royal College. This is the thing that I'm not impressed with. The Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons is undertaking a review under the terms of a revised Veterinary Surgeons Act that they should be. So basically, what they've put in this report is that the RCVS is going to do a review whether we should be regulated under the Veterinary Surgeons Act.
Right, well, that's kind of impossible, isn't it?
Well, that's impossible, but I mean, I love vets. I think vets are fantastic, but sometimes I just wish they would stay in their lane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it's true, isn't it? I mean, I've got great relationships with all of my vets. They're vets.
Yeah, exactly
I
that.
would never give medical advice on a dog. I would never recommend any kind of drugs. I would always say, talk to your vet. I stay in my lane.
Yeah.
Even as a therapist, I did. So that's the thing that I think is the most alarming about this report, the fact that the vets are going to try and regulate us. But anyway, they sent out this questionnaire last year. Let me see. So the questionnaire regarding the dog training devices, we can go through it, and I'll tell you who was at the meeting as well, and or rather who agreed to be named in the report. And I'm named. I think there comes a point where you have to stand up and be counted.
Yeah, I agree. Why would you
not
put your name on it if that's what you stand for?
Absolutely. And I mean, I don't use an ecollar. I've never used an ecollar. I'm at the point in my profession where I won't use an ecollar. There's no point. I'll just send them to somebody else. Doesn't mean I want it banned.
No.
I don't think any piece of equipment should be banned. I think people need to be trained. I think it's an educational issue rather than an equipment issue. Anyway, so it says evidence gathered in keeping with SALK ways of working, the SALK dog training working group approach, and I don't know, I'll tell you who the working group is as well. Approach to relevant
stakeholders not involved.
Dogs Trust is definitely involved.
Yeah, they do.
The people who are on SALK are also do consultation for the Dogs Trust.
Nice.
A literature review was undertaken. The outcomes of these investigations and associated conclusions and recommendations are presented in the report. Okay, so in August 2023, this is how long it's taken. Emails were sent to potential contributors explaining that SALK were keen to understand how and when training devices were used, and that such devices may include sonic collar, spray collar, automatic electronic collar, vibrate collar, prong collar, and choke collar, which is in effect the slip lead. They were invited to list additional devices used. The questionnaire was, okay. Question 1, which training devices do you use in training, and are they used for specific purposes?
Well, obviously.
Obviously. I can give you my answers as well, because my answers have been printed. All 10 questions, all of the answers that people have given have been printed.
Oh, cool.
People have allowed them, which is good,
Yeah.
But there's only like 5 of us agree to get printed. Where's everybody else? I don't know. They haven't said. If more than one device is used, are they used in a specific order? What behavioural challenges are the devices used for? What range of training methods are used before these devices are used? Is this always the case? How would you assess that the use of a device is necessary, and when, if it is no longer necessary? I mean, they're good questions. Questions. Do veterinary surgeons refer behaviour cases to you for use of these devices? My answer to that was like, no, they refer because I'm good at my job.
Yeah, well, they don't refer to you to use it. Stupid.
Stupid question, that one. Describe how the devices are used, including frequency of use and duration, on what proportion of dogs that you work with are the devices used, and how many dogs do you work with annually? Do these devices have any adverse effects on dogs? probably not as much as force feeding them.
No.
And any additional comments? So that was it. So questionnaire regarding the use of devices and training dogs other than the handheld remote controlled electronic devices. So that didn't include the remote controlled ones. Okay, let me just. So what do you think of them?
What's is that the exhaustive list, is it, of aversive equipment?
That was the list. So it says in response, the SALT received replies to the questionnaires from the Animal Behaviour and Training Council. So I think they collated them and sent them in collectively. ARDO, which is James Penraith, the Dogs Trust, the BVA, British Small Animal Veterinary Association, the Deaf Dog Network, the Kennel Club, One Kind, Scottish SPCA, the Electronic Collars Manufacturers Association, and dog trainers Aaron O'Brien, Patricia Bowerbank, Les Grimp, Jimmy Penrith, and Val Harvey.
And were they all use aversives, do they? Those,
The named ones.
yeah.
Oh, don't. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. Some more than others. I mean, it's a dirty word, isn't it? Using aversive.
It's funny. It's funny how words have lost like all sense of normal meaning, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
People take words and make them dirty. But
they do. I mean, you've got the ABTC response does not directly address the list of devices, but rather focuses on the effect of positive punishment, on which the principle the use of aversive devices is used, which isn't true. The ABTC lists the risks to animal welfare of positive punishment and state that the same training goals for which trainers argue that aversive devices are justified can be reached using positive punishment. So if you had an aggressive rotty and it was going off to attack an aggressive rotty, would a bit of cheese stop it?
I think we know not, don't we?
Are you sure?
Quite sure. Yeah, I've seen
They
enough.
believe that even in emergency situations, punishment's not justifiable, and that those that support aversive training are biased in their arguments on poor knowledge and understanding of training and these of alternative methods.
It's the other way around, isn't it, actually? Those people spouting out nonsense about that, they're the ones with the lack of knowledge
Absolutely.
and the
And
lack of understanding and empathy and a lack of kindness towards dogs.
and towards the people, I mean, where is the compassion to the owners and the family? And also it shows a lack of understanding of how the brain works. So the brain is designed to move away from discomfort towards comfort
Hmm.
every time. You
Yeah.
know, it's how it works. And so for them to say this isn't effective and it doesn't work, it's a lot more effective and it happens quicker. And there's nothing wrong with having a quick fix if it works and if it's lasting.
Well, who doesn't want a quick fix? One of our students actually the other day, we filmed a testimonial from her and she made a really good point. Dogs don't live very long. So if they've got behavioural issues, we need to sort it out so they have the best life they can for as long as possible, not
Absolutely.
take half their life trying to figure out how to make it
How
all
to
better
fix
and
it.
keep them in a state of, you know, distress or fear or whatever else while we're trying to do it.
And I find it really interesting that when you do bring in boundaries, I mean, when our boundaries and applying discipline to reinforce the boundaries, when does that step into being an aversive? When you say no,
Yeah,
when you
it's all,
use the training disc to reinforce it.
yeah. What about if the dog wants to go in the garden and you don't let it? It wants to go out and you don't let it.
Absolutely. What if it lunges at another dog and it hits the end of the lead? That's an
Yeah,
aversive right there. And
yeah.
so I think it's semantics and it's back to this is my gang and this is your gang.
It's a
And
very
in my gang, it's got to be done this way.
yeah, it's a very boring um subject, isn't it? Because it's been going on for 30 years or more. This whole divisive, you know, argument about using reward based and all the rest of it. I mean, just to clarify, majority of what we do is reward based. All of the training we do starts
Yeah,
off as reward based, but
absolutely.
when your dog wants to go and rip a sheep apart or, chase it around the field for 2 hours until its lungs explode, then you can't do that, can you? Your training takes you to a point. Yes, the dog understands what come means, but does that guarantee compliance? No. It'll come back if it wants to. If it doesn't, it'll chase the sheep. And we have to have something to stop that.
The consequence has got to outweigh the consequence, the negative consequence has got to outweigh the positive consequence that they get
Yeah,
for chase.
yeah.
And that's like the bottom line, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but understanding doesn't guarantee compliance. Just because your dog knows how
No.
to sit, because you've taught it, or it knows how to lay down at a distance, that doesn't guarantee compliance. It's the consequence of not doing that that brings about the compliance, because it has to. You know what I mean?
And
We've taught you.
the thing that will motivate the dog to do it again for you is the reward.
Yeah.
But you have to have both sides of it, both sides of the same coin.
I just think it's not too dissimilar to parenting, is it? You have a lovely relationship with your children. However, there are consequences for non-compliance. Can you go and clean your bedroom, darling? If it's not done, then we've got a problem, haven't we?
Mhm.
And you can't just ignore that. I think it's
No, you
just,
can't. It
and I
is.
think
Sorry, go on.
now I just think people get so caught up thinking, aversive is really heavy handling and, whatever else. And we use is like little dog training discs. We use those quite a bit to stop actions, right? They're lightweight, little tiny discs on a bit of string.
I was going to say, if you don't know what they are, they're just like little metal symbols, tiny. I haven't got any to hand.
They're
Otherwise,
just
I'll
like
show you.
they're tiny, lightweight. And we were looking actually,
And
we do,
they're like they weigh something like 2 grams in total.
I can
It's
hardly,
ridiculous, like 2 grams, five like other tin symbols on a keychain,
yeah, on a bit of red string, isn't it?
a bit of red string.
Yeah. Well, I was looking the other day. We were watching a film that we do. I was away last week teaching and working with a border collie,
Uh-huh.
aggressive to dogs. So I'd use training discs just to stop that outward action.
Uh-huh.
And then we're going through, condition, well, being around other dogs and whatever else. And then the fascinating thing that we've got on the film is that after I'd been working with the dog, after I'd used the training discs, the dog wasn't terrified of me, didn't dislike me. And actually, when the owner was handling the dog, it wanted to be with me. It was looking at me for like, what direction? What shall I do?
What
And it was not,
what
it
do I
was
do now?
happy, nice dog, liked being with me because I knew what I was doing and the
But
dog felt safe.
oh, I'm just making sure I'm not going to bop. I've got emeralds curled around the wheels of my chair.
Uh-oh.
Um, and the thing is, the discs are done through classical conditioning,
Yeah,
aren't they? We literally condition them with food, cheese, sausage, whatever.
yeah,
And it's a really positive, um, it's a positive conditioning. You're just literally conditioning the sound of the disc. It's like the same as Pavlov's dog, isn't it? You're conditioning the sound of the discs to
yeah,
response.
yeah, totally. And I think when people talk about positive dog training and all the rest of it, you've got to look at the outcome, haven't you, of whether it's positive or not. You
Yeah,
know, getting a result and getting the dog to be around other dogs or around people or not suffering from separation anxiety or whatever it might be,
yeah.
then that's a positive outcome, isn't it? That is
It's
positive training.
it's got to be. You've got to work on positive outcomes. That's the only thing you can do, really, because if if the training and the behavior reformation that you're doing doesn't end up with a positive outcome, then what's the point of doing it?
Hmm. Well,
It
exactly pointless, isn't it?
mm,
Yeah, pointless. I mean, it's a difficult subject, isn't it? Because people get very passionate about it, but then, on the other end of the spectrum, you do see dog sport competitors and things that are hefty-handed and do use remote training collars for things that they probably should, or they definitely shouldn't, in my opinion. Um, so it's, it is a muddy area, really.
I I understand. Um, I understand the use of. I mean, like the aversives that I use are like really mild. You've got your dog training discs and you've got the spray collar. And I don't use citronella in it either. I only ever use compressed air.
Yeah,
I don't think you should leave a dog smelling of something that you've
no,
used to discipline it with. So I don't use citronella at all. Um, and that's it. They're the two aversives that I use as well as my voice, and I'll do a lead correction if I need to.
yeah,
I'll do a lead pop. And when I went to the meeting that they refer to, God, was it 2021? It was in the middle of lockdown. There was the guy there. I don't know. I mean, you could probably find his name on the report, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And he did much to mine and Jamie Penrith's horror. He did a demonstration of
right.
using an e-collar. And we were like, oh, this is a disaster. Why are you doing that? You shouldn't be using an e-collar for training heel work. And this was the whole thing. He was saying, oh, well,
Mm.
I used an e-collar to train heel work. I used an e-collar to train a recall. And I was standing there going, you know what? I don't want the e-collar banned, but if it's only ever used for, if it's only ever going to be used for heel work, then no, I'm not interested in it. But if it's used as a way of preventing dogs being killed because they've got such high predatory response,
Yeah,
then that's a completely different conversation.
yeah,
And I think I think that's it. You see, I think pretty much all equipment has got a place depending on how it's being used.
yeah,
And but I think putting a prong, for example, on a dog because somebody's struggling to get it to walk on a loose lead and it's a quick fix, then that's the kind of quick fix that I don't like.
hmm,
But if it was used for, I'm just thinking there was the lady I worked with years ago. She was an old lady, very, very old lady, even older than me, like really old.
Blimey, that's ancient.
I know, ancient, I know, even older than me. But she was an old woman. Um, she was a widow. She'd lost her husband. She was left with two field trial Labradors who
Yeah,
were mega high energy, and she walked with a stick. Well, she really struggled. The dogs were getting, all over the place. I did quite a bit of work with them, conditioned my discs, put them on a Gen Con. Um, and she still struggled. Now, at the time, a long time ago, I was quite anti prong collars at the
yeah,
time. But
hmm,
now she would probably be an ideal candidate because she would be able to walk the dogs without worrying about them pulling her and they would learn not to lean. And do you know what I mean? It's like you use the equipment for the cases that you need rather than just putting them on any dog because
yeah.
to me that was a need rather than a quick fix.
Well, like we always say, you do have to have an understanding of how they work physiologically and the likely ramifications on the dog and the owner that the pieces of
Yeah.
equipment are going to have. And I mean, years ago, I saw a client, and I mean, prong collars are not that common in the UK, are they? We don't see them a great deal.
I think the dog sports are bringing them in more. I think there's a lot of the dog sport people are using them, and when you have the American trainers coming over
Yeah,
and doing demonstrations, and the fact that everything's online now, and you can now do online courses to make your Malinois do these super duper whizzy spinny
yeah,
between the legs and the heel stuff,
yeah, because we all need a Mally, don't we?
because we all need a Mally. Then
Um,
I think they're going to get really popular really quick, and you can get like pink ones and blue ones and.
Yeah, you can. But I mean, years ago, I went to see a couple of clients that had prong collars on, and I swapped them out for like a Gen Con head collar. And then I
Yeah.
thought, actually, is that cool or not? Do just because they're baby blue,
Ooh.
do we need to stick that round a dog's muzzle? And, it's got a slip action on it as well, so that's aversive.
Mhm.
So is that better than what the equipment they had already that they were walking the dog in quite happily? Just because
It
I thought, well, it don't look very nice without any knowledge at all. It just doesn't look very nice.
well that was the thing that changed it for me because I was very anti-prong, very, very anti-prong. And one of my friends was in the States, and prong collars are really popular in the States.
Yeah.
And she was walking, she's got an English pointer, and she was walking that English pointer on a prong collar. And I saw it on Facebook, and I kind of went, what the?
Yeah.
Why are you walking an English pointer on a prong collar for? You
Yeah.
know, what are you playing at here? And then I kind of told myself to pull my neck in because my friend is lovely, and she never, like, she didn't used to shout at children, she didn't used to smack at children, she didn't do any, she was a really, really gentle
Yeah.
person. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So then that put me on a research, and I then started looking into prong collars. I spoke to a couple of trainers about them who use prong collars, and I got to understand them a lot better. And I think, like, to me, they're a bit like riding in spurs, like
Mhm.
properly riding in spurs, not kicking lumps out of your horse in them. So one of my horses was an ex-riding school horse. He was a three-quarter thoroughbred. He was an absolute nutter, and he was an ex-riding school, and his sides were numb off kids kicking him all the time in the riding school.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do dressage, and I wanted to compete in them. And so I rode him in spurs for about 3 months so that I could give him precise aids while his sides were healing.
Yeah.
And so when I started putting that with the prong collar, I thought, well, if you've had a dog that is leaning and leaning and leaning on the lead for like 6 years, it's going to be completely numb. It's going to
Yeah.
be, if it's getting pulled around on a flat collar, for example, for 6 years,
Yeah.
then is a prong collar going to be the solution because of the way the action of it and the pinch collar, or whatever you want to call it, because of the action of it touching, the dog will recoil from it. It won't lean into it. And
Yeah.
so is that the time it should be used? I mean, I don't know. I don't use one. I mean,
No.
I got one to demonstrate, to show the students, and we were teaching together, we got one out, didn't we, to show it, and somebody took it apart, and I've never been able to get it back together again.
Oh, can't you?
No, I can't. I
No.
can't get the blooming thing back together. So I kind of wave it up like a big long thing rather
Yeah.
than a collar.
And then you've got to.
But I think I think it always comes back to the hands that use them.
Yeah.
Always comes back to the hands that use them.
But when you look, I mean, you know, when you see dogs, they've been kicked and punched and had cigarettes put out on them. You don't need to buy a 300 quid e-collar to cause harm, do you? Do you know what I mean? It's, you can cause plenty of harm without any piece of equipment, with a bit of wood or whatever. People do lots of horrible things, um, intentionally. But I think it's fascinating you mentioned about the horses as well, because people don't have a problem with horses, do they? We can put
Well, they
a
do. They are now. They're starting to.
fence around a field to keep a prey animal in a field in an area. People don't have a problem with that, do they?
No, they don't. No, and they don't have a problem with freedom fences either. And the whole thing with Salk and with the Kennel Club as well is it's a handheld remote. So
Yeah.
they're not banning a freedom fence. They can stick a freedom fence collar in your dog and let it run in however many, I don't know what the voltage is. They don't
Yeah.
have an issue with that, but they do have an issue with the handheld remote. And I kind of understand that because when I first started, I mentioned, when we did the interview with Di Stevens, sorry, Di
Yeah.
Stevens, the guy I trained with initially doing gun dog work with Bart, they used e-collars on some of the dogs. If the dogs continually running, which I think is the wrong time to use one, so they would use it to correct the dog.
Mm.
I can remember one of the owners using it, and the dog ran through it, and he just cranked it up, lifted the dog off its feet. And
Yeah.
so I was very anti e-collar. I was really anti e-collars. Then it shows
Yeah.
the learning curve, doesn't it? When you start, you're very, well, that's wrong and that's wrong and that's wrong. But then as you get more experienced and you work in the real world, and you're working with aggressive dogs, and you're working with people who are really, really at the end of their tether because of their dog's behavior, you kind of you you kind of get your head out your ass, don't you? And
Yeah,
you
well, I
start
know,
understanding what's going on.
well, I know two people that were debating using an e-collar and didn't because it's uncommon. They can't get their head around. Shall I use one? Shall I not? The dog's all right. I'll use a long line. And both of those people had the dogs run over and killed, young dogs.
Oh my
So,
God.
because they'd, high pro drive and off they'd go after deer or, and it's, you don't even have to see a deer, do you? It's the scent and off they go.
Hot scent.
Yeah, the dogs, unfortunately, two young dogs got run over. Um, and probably could have been, prevented by using a remote collar. But and a lot of these, like with the prey drive and all the rest, with that sort of predatory chase, there's nothing else that works. With a high, you know what I mean? It's, you have to have seen and worked with or owned a dog with a high prey drive where their whole reason for getting out the house is to
Is to
pursue
chase.
prey. Yeah. It's
Uh-huh.
not, not your average dog that just, if a squirrel pops down the tree and says hello, they might have a half-hearted chase. It's not.
Mhm.
These dogs are out, off on a mission. And you can't do anything about it other than use an e-collar.
When it is really ingrained. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you start, you do an assessment and you start and you see what you can do. But when you've got these dogs that are just literally, I mean, I had that little Jack Russell here from Cyprus. I mean, I mean, you couldn't teach it to walk to heel. It was just obsessed. I mean, if someone's head went past the top of a fence, it's
Mhm.
screaming because it thought it was an animal. I mean, it's
Mm.
just, oh, as soon as it's out the door, it is looking. It doesn't want to sniff, doesn't want to wee, doesn't want to play with dogs. It just wants to get out and kill something. And of
Yeah.
course, it never could kill something, obviously. So it was in this frustration all the time.
Uh-huh.
Manic behavior on a long line, the end of a long line, dragging her owners everywhere. Just unpleasant, horrible, just the dog you wouldn't want to own.
What
E-collar
did you do?
trained. She was e-collar trained, now lives in Epping Forest and spends half the time in France, off the lead, running along the beaches.
Lovely.
Her best life. They love walking her. And that's it. But I honestly don't think, and obviously now she's trained to walk to heel and everything else, but you couldn't have achieved that before.
No.
You
No,
just, could you get her to walk to heel? No, not. How can you do? No, can't possibly do.
it it's really interesting because I just wonder what kind of dogs people are training or working with, and that's okay. If you, I mean, we both chose early on to specialize with aggression. Well, it
Well,
kind of chose us, really, didn't it? We
gonna
didn't
say
we
I
didn't
don't
choose it,
remember
it chose us.
making that choice. No.
Um, and some people don't want to go down that road, and that's absolutely fine. And I know people who only want to train puppies, and I
Yeah,
know people who only want to do things like Kennel Club Good Citizen, which is fantastic. It's a really good training scheme, really good for people to train their dogs with. You've got people who have never worked with like a high prey drive dog because they've only worked in class. They haven't worked out, they haven't worked with like working lines.
yeah.
And that's great because we love trainers who are doing that. But they shouldn't be the trainers saying you can't use this and you can't use that if they've not been
No.
in front of those dogs. And that, I think that's I think that is like ultimately my take on it. Unless you've worked with that kind of level of aggression or that kind of high prey drive, um, that much of a pain in the ass to live with, then I don't think you should be saying, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. I think at the end of the day, the person who is at the end of the lead is the only person who can say what equipment needs to be used on the dog in order to change its behavior.
Well, we see people that are at the end of the road. Can you help me? Or the dog's going to be put to sleep or stuffed in rescue if we can possibly find a space. And that's where we're at. Do we want to keep the dog alive? Do we want to stuff it into rescue? Or do we want to do the very best we can to keep it living with the owner and having a good life? Obviously, that's the choice that we make, isn't it? We can't, but that's what we have to do. Particularly now, we can't get it into rescue. There's no space. So, you know, are they going to keep it? Are we going to help? Are we going to make a difference? And like you said about a quick fix, these people are desperate. They haven't got. If you said, "Oh, we'll spend the next 6 to 12 months doing this, that," forget it. Forget that. They don't
Mhm.
want to. They can't. They're already at the end of their tether. They haven't got another 6 months.
Well, they haven't got the emotional capacity to deal with
No,
it.
no, they haven't got 6 months. They need to see something happen quickly to
Mhm.
give them so that they can see light at the end of the tunnel. That okay, actually there is a solution to this, and this is what we've got to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Not flailing around in the dark. But like you said, those club trainers, and we've all been, you and I have both run training classes for a long time. But training a dog in that environment is not the same as training it in the real world. Yes, we always, teach for real world eventualities, but what you see, the behaviors that you see in a training environment are very different to those same dogs out in the real world.
Yes. Yes, sorry, I was just going through the because I know that way.
I see your eyes flicking about.
I'm reading the report. Okay, so there's something here that says from I'm going to go back to what was being done. So I read about the ABTC, didn't I? The
Yeah, don't
BVA,
have to keep giving them a name check.
sorry, the BVA and the BSAVA
Yeah.
said behaviourists are best placed to complete the questionnaire. Well done.
Oh
So
no.
they're saying that on one hand, and on the other hand, they're saying we should be regulating them. Uh, the electronic collars manufacturer declined to submit a response. The Kennel Club, we have two training programs, the Good Citizen Dog Scheme and the KCI. The KCI is getting pulled, or is it getting redone?
I think they're getting redone, I think, from what I heard.
The Kennel Club states the KCI promote the use of suitable training methods consistent with principles of kindness, fairness, and good welfare.
Yeah, well,
But
who does that?
who doesn't? But do not provide a specific definition of aversive techniques beyond this.
Good.
Good. Well done, Kennel Club. That was a good one. Especially as the Kennel Club, I find it really funny that they're anti-slip bleed and yet they run all the field trials
Well, and all the breed
and
shows,
showing
yeah, all the breed shows you got to check high check on your dog.
high check collars, lifting the dogs up, getting their heads up.
Yeah.
SPCA does not use any of the listed aversive training methods on dogs in its care
Well, they
or
don't need to, do
advocated for
they?
positive reinforcement. No, they don't. They just give the dog out and they give it with a muzzle. Do not let your dog live with a cat. Do not let your dog live with any children, and make sure it's always muzzled when you leave the house.
Yeah, and it needs to live with a single person that has no visitors, no other pets, no family. It does it, have you seen those
I've
adverts?
seen them. I've seen them on the website and on Facebook being shared. Yeah,
Yeah, Jamie Penrith showed me quite
honestly,
often. Yeah,
and it needs two people to walk it.
needs a quiet garden, not many people
Yeah,
around.
ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Where are these homes?
We discourage any training methods that cause the dogs to suffer. Of
Yeah, of course you do.
course they do. One kind, the SALT report on the use of ecolars discusses considerations in reaching conclusion that the use of ecolars should be prohibited. Effectiveness is not the only measure by which a training intervention should be measured. And that if we make effective the only criterion by which we determine the appropriateness of an intervention, we risk failing to consider some other ethical objectives. Aversive training can result in negative mental states, including fear, distress, anxiety, aggression, long-term negative moods, and pessimistic cognitive bias. And I totally agree with that, but I think that should be called harsh handling and
Yeah.
not aversive training because they're very, very different. And they seem to be lumping them together.
Yeah, and it's not like we've discussed, it's not synonymous. They're not together. I love the fact, this all animal welfare and the harm that we do. Well, I mean, you know, chasing and killing livestock is, that's a massive welfare issue, isn't it?
Mhm.
That's not fine, is
Absolutely.
it? It's not fine pursuing sheep and killing lambs and
No,
ripping deer's legs off them. I mean, that's not cool.
no, no, it's really not.
No. And what was the conclusion of the report then? Was the not one?
It is. Let me just get to the bottom of that. So the conclusion was pretty woolly, actually.
Oh, surprising.
Well, that's a surprise. all the references, which were rubbish. Okay, SORC, well. Conclusions and recommendations. The following recommendations are intended to maximise the welfare of pet dogs in Scotland in regard to training and the use of training devices other than the handheld remote control devices. That really reminds me, I keep telling them, if it's an e-collar, call it an e-collar. If it's an electric shock collar, call it an electric shock collar. Because they talk about like e-collar as well. The spray collar is a form of e-collar, isn't it? Because it's electronic handheld remote
Yeah,
device.
they're all the same. They're all electronic handheld devices.
Use of aversives. We do not currently make any formal recommendation to the Scottish ministers regarding legislation or guidance for specific training devices other than the e-collar. Use of aversive training devices can be associated with welfare harm, but until further evidence becomes available, SORC cannot give robust evidence-based guidance on which specific training devices should not be used. It considers that because aversive training devices have the potential to be harmful, welfare safeguards should be put in place to ensure that dog training is beneficial rather than harmful. As a minimum, a welfare-oriented system of training is required. We do, however, support education and engagement with welfare safeguards and continue to strongly encourage the use of reward-based methods. Regulation and training, given the acknowledged potential for welfare harm through abuse or misuse of certain training devices, it is concerning that professional dog trainers and behaviourists are unregulated and are not legally required to understand or have training in animal welfare, learning theory, or the harm-benefit analysis of aversive devices. SORC recommends that the Scottish ministers introduce legislation that require dog trainers and behaviourists to follow a regulatory framework. And I think that's quite a good idea, but not if it's going under the Veterinary Act.
No, well, it depends who regulates.
Who writes it and regulates it.
Yeah.
It can't be an organisation. It has to come through the government. It has to be a government organisation, because otherwise it will just be, and it has to be not these people.
No, well, the trouble is, the reason it's not regulated is because nobody can agree on anything, can they?
No. And then the last one is reward-based training methods are effective and associated with limited or no welfare risks, which isn't true. Other methods and training devices, such as aversive methods referenced in this report, are open to misuse or abuse and therefore have the potential to cause harm. They obviously, or maybe they haven't or ignoring it, they obviously haven't seen dogs that have been overtrained on food become aggressive to their owners.
Yeah. No, well, they wouldn't notice that, would they? They wouldn't
They'd be
even,
too busy feeding it.
yeah, wouldn't acknowledge that.
No. SORC recommends that welfare-orientated, reward-based training methods be advocated for any future code of practice for the welfare of dogs. And that's
Well,
it.
really, I mean, that's absolutely, mind-blowing information, isn't it? Of course it should. What a stupid bloody conclusion that is.
Indeed. So the people on SORC are Kathy Dwyer, who consults with the Dogs Trust. You've got, or she used to, I don't know if she still does, Harvey Carruthers is a vet, Mike Radford's a lawyer, Paula Boyden's Dogs Trust, Maria Haskell's the Animal Welfare Sciences Scottish Royal College. Then we've got the World Federation of Animals. We've got the vet, we've got the SPCA. Yeah, we've got another couple of vets. But they're not, it hasn't said who the dog training working group were.
No, well, they should have had some farmers there, shouldn't they, as well?
They should have had farmers there.
They've had their livestock and their livelihood, affected and all the rest of it. See what they think about it. Not the vets. Got to do with them.
And the fact that, most of these people, well, I don't know who was on the working committee. I wasn't on the working committee. I was given a form to fill in along with like loads of other trainers, like 80 trainers.
Yeah.
I don't know who was on the dog training working group, because when I moved to Scotland, I said, if there's a working group on regulation, give me a shout. I've been there, done that, wrote the standards.
Well, it's probably someone from the Dogs Trust on there, isn't it? That's where they.
Probably. Probably. But yeah, it doesn't say who who the members of the working group are. It does say the people who filled the forms in because it's given the answers. I didn't realize there was only going to be like 4 of us say yes, you can print our answers, which is shocking, really. No pun intended.
No, well, it's a shame. No, that's good if it was intended. That'd be funny. No, it's a shame that people don't stand up for what they think, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, I mean, if you, I think you have to stand up and be counted, especially when it's going to have an impact on dog training, like the next generation.
Yeah. No, definitely, definitely.
Because we're
No,
dinosaurs, Ross, me and you.
I know.
I mean, it's our job now to look after the next generation, isn't it? To make sure that they can do what needs to be done.
Yeah, yeah. We shall see whether we have our wings clipped, won't we?
Hmm.
Hmm. Yes, it's all quite depressing, to be honest, isn't it? It's quite depressing and quite frustrating, really, that this goes
It's
round.
really, I'm getting really wound up because my cheeks are gone pink. I always get like high emotion, don't I? I'm terrible. I do this in meetings as well. I get really passionate in meetings and I get these little pink spots on my cheek.
Rosy cheek,
Eh?
rosy cheeks.
Rosy cheeks. I do. I get really passionate. I sit in meetings, I get really passionate and I can feel my passion hitting my cheeks. Little apples, little red apples.
Yeah, oh dear.
Oh
Right then,
dear.
on that depressing, stressful note, shall we go and have a large
Yes, and
supper?
we can put the link to the report, can't we?
Oh yeah, good plan. That can go in the old show notes, can't it?
Yes. I'll put a link up to the PDF.
Cool. Well, enjoy the warmth of Scotland while it lasts.
We've got sun all week.
That'll be it. That's it for this year, isn't it?
I think this is the summer. I think this is it.
Yeah, that'll be that for Scotland.
You have a cracking one.
Yeah, I'll speak to you soon.
All right, you take it steady.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks for listening. It's not just gun dogs and not just guard dogs, but all things canine, as we hope you have discovered. Please like, share and subscribe and help us spread a bit of common sense back into dog ownership. And a review wouldn't go amiss either. Catch up with Les and Ross again in about 14 days for more canine conversations. Until next time, stay well and enjoy your dogs. Any dog-related questions or topics, just drop an email to talk@cfba.uk or message us via facebook.com/gundogs and guard dogs podcast.